So last Tuesday, our main focus was trying to get some work done on my Monte Carlo up in the old shop. I figure it'll take us about a week to get the drivetrain removed, the frame and the firewall cleaned, and the old air conditioning system removed from the firewall. But to get that done and done properly, the dash has to come out of the car. You want me to call Bucko?
He is a little smaller than me, isn't he?
He is a little smaller than you. Buckwheat's a little bit busy right now up at the farm, helping Dad work on his 35 Ford. The flathead is suffering from a leaking water pump and overheating problems. So in the meantime, while we're waiting on Bucko to come help pull the dash, Tanner got busy dismantling the front suspension. The plan is to replace all the stock upper and lower control arms with tubular units from TRZ, and the stock heating and air conditioning system will be replaced by a much more clean and compact unit from Vintage Air, which will free up a lot of real estate underneath the hood for the custom twin turbo kit that Bipolar plans to build as soon as I get the car up there. Now that we've got the AC box removed, we still need to remove the stock motor mounts, clean and paint the frame, and get rid of the stock vacuum assist power brakes. At this point, we were just about ready to start pulling the dash out of the car when the folks who won the Mustang and the SRC giveaway showed up to pick it up. Billy went over the car with the winner and took he and his wife for test rides, and you'll see all that on Street Racing Channel later this week. After the Mustang left, we took a test drive to go take a test drive at Jax Wax. The kids found out that they're giving away this Podium 1 virtual racing simulator. After watching this video of it on Facebook, they just had to go see it for themselves. Now, Jared and Todd at Jax Wax had told me about this thing and showed it to me and Tanner a few weeks ago. I was hoping to keep this thing on the down low and keep my kids away from it so that we don't end up with another distraction at the shop. I'm sure everybody understands how kids are these days with video games. The problem is this thing is so realistic that once you get started, you don't want to stop playing. What do you think of this thing, Thomason?
Oh, if this thing was in our shop, we'd get nothing done.
We would get nothing done. We almost get nothing done now. Pump the brakes. So far, Todd's got it going on out of everybody here.
The dirt track's a little tricky.
While the kids were all busy playing video games, Jack asked me if I had any intentions of going to the Good Guys show in Columbus this weekend. Since we plan on going to KD on Friday and Saturday, I don't have time to go. And that's when Jack explained to me that there's a poker run on Thursday morning. So I figured I'd get the Malibu all cleaned up and go pick Jack up in the morning at Jax Wax, and we'd ride together. Now, I've never done a poker run before, so Jack had to explain to me that there's a deck of cards spread out over 5 different stops. We're supposed to pick up a card at each stop, and whoever has the best hand at the end wins the pot. So before we get started, my first stop was to top the Malibu off with fuel before I pick up Jack at Jax Wax in near the airport. Now, Jax Wax HQ on 17th Avenue in Columbus is actually stop number 2 on the poker run today, so when I pulled in, Jack was busy getting food and drink set up for everybody that stops in. All right, Jackson, what have you got me into?
Well, first of all, you're going to need to set up the rear tires because I'm driving. We're going to do the poker run. We've done the poker run for I think 2 or 3 years now, but I've never participated in it. So all this food and beverages and all this stuff, this is for anyone on the poker run.
Right.
But you and I, we're going to go sign up for it and hit the road.
As Jack and I went out to get in the Malibu, the poker run officials were already pulling in to get set up. So Jack and I leave 17th Avenue and we head straight for the fairgrounds to get registered. And I realize with Jack behind the wheel, it'll be a miracle if we don't have to make contact with Johnny Law today. I hope you know where you're going, because I don't.
I have no clue, but I know that guy pulled out in front of us. You're lucky.
It's not every day that Jack gets to drive around in a car that has 500 or 600 horsepower. And now that he's behind the wheel of my Malibu, he seems to have little to no self-control over throttle input or steering input. And as he pulls into the fairgrounds, he seems to be in sensory overload. And somehow we kept entering every area through the exits. But eventually we found the registration area and got parked.
Don't know what you're doing. I don't know what I'm ever doing my whole life. But it's been working.
Now, I've never been to Good Guys, but somehow I get the feeling the Malibu isn't parked where it's supposed to be for us to get registered. At this point, I'm just praying we get back out to the car before it gets towed.
That's your score sheet.
Okay.
Name, registration number. You'll stop at first stop, draw a card.
Got it.
My guys will fill in the blanks.
Right.
You'll move on to the next step.
Got it.
So we're all registered. We're ready to go.
Ready to roll.
Ready to rock. You got your
Where we're going.
itinerary.
Boom, boom, bam, knock them out.
All right, let's go. Hopefully we don't get towed or arrested, put in jail.
All of the above.
So now that we're officially registered for the poker run, our first stop is on the west side of downtown at a classic car dealership called Cruis Classics. When we pulled in, Jack ran into an old friend of his who's driving this beautiful low-mileage Monty SS. It just goes to show that at Good Guys, there's a little bit of something for everyone, from G-bodies like mine to classic old-school highboys and woody wagons. And inside Cruis Classics, there was the same variety.
You've been here a few times, Jack?
About 1,000.
Now, Jack's been here many times, and even though I've heard of this place and seen pictures of cars here for sale on the internet, this is the first time I've ever set foot inside the building. And although there's a really wide variety of nice stuff in there, my favorite by far was this triple black 1963 Super Sport Impala 409 4-speed.
What are you buying today, Jack?
That Riviera, it's white with a red interior. He wants 65 for it. 35 was, I'd take a swing at it.
Oh my God.
Have you been introduced to
I have not.
Larry Pendleton?
Larry,
Earl
nice to meet
Hoskins?
you.
Nice to meet you, sir.
After doing a little bit of window shopping, it was finally time for Jack to pick his card. You choose. This is your deal.
I'll close my eyes. This is how I make my biggest decisions in life.
Yeah, I get that.
Jack, hey.
Not bad. So at this point, we're actually off to a pretty good start. We haven't gotten a ticket, haven't been arrested, and haven't been towed yet. But the day's still young, and we've got to go back across town to 17th Avenue for stop number 2 at Jax Wax. Now, since Jack pulled a Jack at the first stop, he's in a really good mood and feeling pretty confident about his chances to end up winning the poker run. Sir, you can't park like this.
I know, guy.
While Jack feels pretty confident at his chances of winning the poker run, I feel just as confident that we're probably going to end up getting towed by the end of the day. Listen, we got to work on your parking because everybody knows that's my car and I look like an car parked like that.
That's why I did it. It's his car. Guy don't know how to park.
Where are we going now, Jack?
We're going to Boss Cars and we're going to take a break here. You're going to like this place. Rick Parker, his wife Jackie, they do Ford, Boss 429s, all kinds of Mustangs. Watch this shit. This ain't no Ford. We're going to the airport. It's right there.
Unfortunately, I missed catching Jack pulling his card at his own store. He pulled a 2, but that didn't dampen his spirits behind the wheel. He plans on taking a shortcut through the airport to get to our next stop on the poker run.
All right, Boss Cars. A little detour.
Well, you did a little bit better parking this time.
Well, yeah, it's not sideways.
And not
I'm only allowed to do that at my place.
Now, when you're in business for yourself like Jack has been for the last 30 plus years, at the same place in the same town, the same location, you know everybody and everybody knows you. And such was the case over at Boss Cars. Jack's been selling detailing products to this family for over 30 years. The Parker family is known for collecting, restoring, and repairing ultra-rare or low-production Ford cars and trucks, and especially Shelby Mustangs. If you're in the market for ultra-rare Ford parts, the folks at Boss Cars likely either have it or know where it can be found. Regardless whether it's sheet metal, wheels, tires, engines, or transmissions, they seem to have a little bit of everything. But unfortunately for Jack, one thing they didn't have for us today was a good card for him to draw.
We're done. We got it.
We're not doing too good on the draws today, are
Rod's
we?
Western
The first
Palace.
one was really good, but so far,
Well, here's the good news. Every one of these has been like a car place. We're going to Rod's Western Palace. Hell, we'll get a cowboy hat.
so far Jack has pulled 1 Jack and a pair of 2s. So he's praying for some better luck at the big horse in the sky, also known as Rod's Western Palace. Draw a good one this time, Jack.
Okay.
Come on, man.
They're all aces except for one.
If you're keeping track, that's 3 deuces in a row for Jackson. Well, the last spot we get to get something to eat. I'm getting hungry. How about you?
Ready for a little fix?
Come on. So it's your classic good news, bad news deal now. The good news, our last stop is Quaker Steak and Lube. The bad news, the traffic on 71 North is terrible. Bad news, our poker hand sucks. Good news, the AC and cooling system in the Malibu is on point. Well, I'm glad we didn't overheat in that traffic.
It's starting to piss me off. 150 degrees. No wonder I'm cold. Turn the air off. The car's cold.
I think this is the first time Jack's ever driven a street car that runs on E85 with a carburetor and this kind of heat with the air conditioning on. Even though it's 93 degrees outside and humid, the Malibu just doesn't care. After sitting in traffic for 45 minutes with the air conditioning on, the Malibu never went over 160 degrees. And the air conditioning in the car got so cold, Jack rolled the window down to let the heat in. Look at this well-dressed guy.
Hey, how you doing?
Huh? There is 0% chance we're winning this.
I have. Well, I'll tell you what. I started with a jack. I got excited, but then it kind of went.
It went downhill
the wheel fell
fast.
off. I need a 2. I'm sure that's right here. Yeah, I was wrong again. Tell you what, I'm glad I never played poker.
With any chances of winning the poker run completely out the window, we got something to eat and then headed back to Jax Wax to take inventory of what we have accomplished today and what we haven't. What do you think, Jack?
I enjoyed it. It's a little bit of a long day, but
A little bit of a long day.
Well, you know what happens is when you're a celebrity like you, we can't go 5 feet. Hey, Bill. Old man's garage. I'm like, can I get a chicken sandwich?
You're killing me, Jack. You're freaking killing me, man.
Hey, the last stop was Quaker's Takeaway, and I did have a chicken sandwich.
And it was good.
And we had to hide.
Mine was really
We had to
good.
hide in a booth in the back. So
Yeah, we hid a little
Didn't
bit.
have to sign autographs.
Well, you got to drive the Malibu all day.
Yeah. So the only thing that make this car better is if it was in my garage. There's a few things I suggest.
Okay, I'm ready. One, we got to lift the front end of it.
Well, it
Just a
rubs a
little
little bit. It's not
Yeah, the
bad.
front
but I was
tires are
just gonna
rubbing a little
say,
bit.
Jags does sell electric fans, and this 150 degree all day bullshit when it's 90. The air conditioner's way too cold. Can't have that.
Oh,
That max? No, I don't like that.
yeah, you did turn the air down.
You know
a
when
little
your
bit.
mom used to say, "Close the door, you're letting the heat out." No, I'm rolling the window down because my old junk doesn't have air conditioning. And Bill's like, "Jack, if you put the window up, it would be a lot cooler." I'm some dumb, but I ain't plumb dumb.
Well, I had a good time,
I
man.
did too. I've never done. I mean, we've not sponsored, but we've been
Yeah, part of it.
Part of it, but I never was in the event driving a car, and I'm glad I drove this one. Well, think about it. I'd drive that old 55 Chevy, we'd have been sweating our butts off.
Yeah, this is kind of nice. It's got air, and you lock a converter in overdrive, and
Oh yeah, yeah, that's right. Let me turn that off. That was for the freeway.
Oh,
See,
you know
I'm
what?
learning all this.
you were worried we had to go get fuel every time we stop it.
No,
We've been on
I
this-
thought the gas gauge was broken. It stayed on full. It starts making gas. When you flip this little switch down there,
it starts making its own fuel.
yeah, 700 R4 means we're making fuel. That's how you got back from Florida.
Dude, I'll tell you what, like, you know, we talked about this a little while ago. If you would have told me 20 years ago that you could take any car, you know, but a 3,800 pound Malibu
No way.
with air conditioning, automatic, overdrive, put a small block Chevy in it with a hydraulic roller and run 10s on motor, 9s on the kit,
Yeah.
I would have said you're crazy. And then
Well,
drive it to Florida? No, come on.
Everyone would have said you're a liar. I spend every paycheck at Jags to run 13s. Are you kidding me?
Technology has come a long way. Cylinder heads, camshaft profiles, hydraulic lifters. It's come a long way.
Uncle Bob,
Uncle Bob.
Vickers transmission.
That's right.
When this thing shifts,
It's right now, isn't it?
Well, I mean, kind of like the first time it did it, when I was giving a little bit of gas on 670,
Yeah.
it knocked a lung loose. I'm kind of old.
So that brings us to the weekend, and we're headed to KD Dragway down near Portsmouth in southern Ohio, where the Ohio and Scioto rivers meet. Portsmouth is famous for being the home of Roy Rogers and one of my favorite restaurants to eat at every time we come down here. Located right next to the U.S. Grant Bridge, of course I'm talking about the Scioto River, where they cook all their steaks over open flames. The track itself is located about 20 minutes northeast of Portsmouth in a little town called South Webster, Ohio. We made it down there Thursday evening to get a pit spot and stayed until Sunday morning. Vicki brought the big wheels down with us so that the kids could have a big wheel race on Saturday before the main event. To be honest, the big wheel races was the highlight of the weekend for me. CJ Buckner's daughter flagged all the races, while Molly and her niece Danica were turn marshals, who were in charge of making sure the kids made it around the cone and went back to the starting line rather than pedaling all the way to the finish line, 660 feet the other end of the track. Vicki does her best to pair the kids up by weight and age, and all the kids that participate get a goodie bag with a Hot Wheels car in it from Street Racing Channel. But for the kids, I think the best part of being in the big wheel race was having Jamie Deere as the announcer and getting snow cones afterwards.
My gosh, that looks so good! Yum!
Even though it was terribly hot during the day, there was a lot of people that came to see us, and a lot of little kids stopped by to say
Tell
thank
me
you.
your ages again. And 9?
Yeah. I'm gonna have to start behaving. I think Billy's getting ready to go up here.
All right.
Thanks for coming to see us.
Thankfully, we had plenty of help taking care of the baby while everyone was racing. CJ drove Billy's 55 Chevy, Billy drove the S10, and Tommy ran the Falcon. And all the racing action will be on Street Racing Channel and Raggedy Ann's YouTube channel. But for right now in this video, we're going to turn our attention to some visitors that stopped by to see us.
This guy won the carburetor.
Yep.
I'm sorry, this guy and his wife.
Yeah, she actually won.
She actually won.
About a month and a half ago, we held a giveaway for a chance to come meet us and win an ATM Carburetor.
They're from Kentucky, Ashley, Menard.
The winners were from a little town called Catlettsburg, Kentucky, and had I known they were going to be at KD, I would have brought their carburetor with me.
I wanted them to bring the car up.
Yep.
But the car has problems. It's got Ford problems.
Oh, geez.
It's got a cam and lifter problem.
Oh, okay.
And me and Bob have been kind of talking about doing something like this to help somebody.
Oh.
So,
guess what?
guess what, Uncle Bob? Thanks, Bob.
So John Menarchik and his wife won the carburetor giveaway, but unfortunately, his 64 Mercury Marauder's got a couple little problems with the engine, and he's not comfortable driving it all the way up to Ohio to have me help him put the carburetor on and tune the engine. When John explained to me that the engine has some lifter noise in it once it gets warmed up, I offered a possible solution, and that was to remove the flat tappet hydraulic cam in John's 460 base aluminum-headed 502 cubic inch big block Ford and replace it with an Isky hydraulic roller similar to what's in my Malibu. John's 1964 Mercury Marauder is a one-year-only body style that was raced heavily in NASCAR competition back in '64. The Mercury Marauders are far more rare today than their cousin, the Ford Galaxy. There aren't many of these old Mercurys left, and the ones that are still around aren't nearly in as good a condition as the one that John owns today. Believe it or not, these full-size behemoths were averaging 170 to 180 miles an hour at the Daytona 500 back in 1964. Although this particular car was never raced in NASCAR, it may look familiar to you for another reason. It was featured in the January 2009 issue of Popular Hot Rodding. But John's Mercury is more than just a beauty queen. Even though I'm not a Ford guy, you know how much I like clean, tastefully modified, low-mileage rare cars. And John's Mercury checks all my favorite boxes.
This is fancy.
Isn't that beautiful?
Wow.
Oh my gosh. Vicki and I made the 3-hour drive down to Kentucky to visit John and his Mercury, but we were losing daylight fast. And I wanted to talk to John on camera about the car's history before the sun goes down.
Hey!
We
Long
made
time
it.
no see. How are you? Good. How are you?
Good, I'm good.
Dude, this
We
thing's
made
beautiful.
it.
Just like with a lot of cars that are handed down from one generation to another, there's always a lot of history and sentimental value, and such is the case with John and this Mercury.
You inherited this from your dad?
Yes, a guy here locally built it. He drove it around, took it to some car shows. I think it was a good guy in Columbus at one time. Life happened, and he ended up selling it. And my neighbor knows him real well. My mom and dad's neighbor at the time. And he sold it to him. And then in 2013, my dad bought it. He had always wanted he really wanted a 64 Comet, but this come available and it was pretty nice. So, and he'd always wanted something like this. He loved old Ford.
He was a Ford guy.
He was, absolutely.
John's dad absolutely loved this old '64 Mercury. When he left the car to John, he asked that the car always be kept in a heated and cooled garage and that the car be kept in perfect condition for his granddaughters someday to enjoy it as well. Gracie and Madison are in high school now, and as Gracie graduates this fall, she would like to use the car for her senior picture. So I'd really like to help John and his wife get this car squared away so that they can all enjoy it as a family the way they did when John's dad was still here.
So this would have had an FE motor in it?
Yes, actually the car come with a 394 barrel.
Okay.
And they made several different variations of the roof. They made a 4-door. They made a 4-door breezeway, which was the back chopped off and the back glass would roll down.
Right.
And then they made the fastback, which
The fastback was a NASCAR deal.
It was.
That was a big thing back then because these were the bodies that they would run in NASCAR.
Yep.
And they found that, because I read about this a long time ago actually, they found that by taking the top and then slanting the back glass like that they would cut through the air better. So they did that. I don't remember what year that was. 63 maybe?
63, 64. So the Galaxy is the only thing it shares with the Galaxy, as far as I know, I'm no expert, but is the roof line and the front glass. I love the little like wicker bill kind of thing on the...
That was a NASCAR deal. That's how that came to be.
Yep.
Was NASCAR racing. So this thing has not an FE in it, but it has a 460 based big block Ford.
Correct.
Let's look at it.
Now, typically when someone tells you they've got an old Ford with a 460 in it, you expect to see some oil leaking valve covers and cast iron heads, but that's definitely not the case here.
Let's go for a ride. All right.
John's big block Ford has been bored and stroked to 502 cubic inches and has Edelbrock aluminum heads and a relatively rowdy flat tappet hydraulic cam. The old big block Ford fired right up and sounds pretty healthy. But the problem that John's concerned about is once the engine gets up to operating temperature and the oil thins out, the hydraulic lifters start to make a little bit of noise. And the last thing John wants to do is wipe the camshaft in it. When I met John at the track the other night and he told me what this thing was doing, I was concerned that maybe that had already happened. But after hearing the engine run and riding in the car myself, I feel like the camshaft's probably okay, but the hydraulic flat tappet lifters leave a lot to be desired. I noticed during the test drive that the old Ford carries really good oil pressure, about 50 or 60 pounds hot. However, the water temperature does rise pretty fast. And I noticed that there does seem to be an excessive amount of heat radiating from the headers and the exhaust system up through the floor and the carpet. Typically, these are signs that the ignition timing may not be advanced far enough for the cam profile that's currently in the engine. Now, the main reason I wanted to come down here and ride in this car and hear it run myself is because if I have John pull the engine out of it and bring it up to me, I want to know what kind of condition the engine is in before we put it on the dyno. Because obviously I'd like to know what the engine makes the way it is and then see what the difference is after we swap the camshaft and the carburetor. And then of course I'd like to tune it for max power while we've got it on the dyno. But anyway, after riding in the car and hearing the engine run, I don't think there's any reason this engine wouldn't survive some initial dyno pulls as soon as we get it to the machine shop. So once I got a little bit of sleep from our trip home from Kentucky, I went straight up to Uncle Bob's to tell him about this big block Ford that is in dire need of his expertise. Although I'm not sure how quickly John will get the engine out of the car, I feel pretty confident that Bob's got plenty of time to wrap up these two 6-liter LS engines, as well as a couple small block Chevy 434 dyno sessions that we've had planned for a couple of weeks. What's going on, Uncle Bob?
I don't know, hot.
It is hot today. This looks hot.
It's hot. It's mean.
That's that little 408 that's going in Billy's C10 pickup giveaway truck.
Yep.
And we're going to run it on, is it on gas right now?
Right now.
Okay, so it's on gas right now with a naturally aspirated setup, of course, but we've got a blower out there. Once we break it in and we make some dyno pulls, we're going to put the blower on it and make some pulls and see what we can make cramming some boost down this thing's throat. Come on.
Come on, let's see what it's going to do.
Well, I might have got you into another project.
Oh, that's what I'm here for.
Okay. I actually did get you into another project. So I gave that carburetor away, that ATM carburetor, about a month or so ago. It came in, and the people who won it, I was going to have them bring the car up, and they're like, it's got a couple little issues. It runs hot, and it's got some lifter noise in it. And it's not when it's cold, it's just once it warms up, the lifters sound like solid lifters instead of hydraulics. But I rode around in it last night, and it runs perfectly fine. It drives good. I think maybe it needs some ignition timing and carburetor tuning, but Iski is on board for new hydraulic roller and roller lifters for it, and Bubba Rafferty's going to build a new converter for it, and it's going in a 64 Mercury Marauder. Beautiful. Wait till you see this thing. So since the guy's got problems, I'm like, we've been talking about doing something like this for quite a while, right?
Right.
And it's hard to just find the right project, I guess. And this just literally fell in my lap Saturday. We were at KD racing, and these people walked up to the merch tent, and Vicki commented, "Hey, I like your shirt." And he goes, "Yeah, it's the one that won the carburetor." Oh, okay. So we started talking about bringing the car up, and he's like, "Yeah, it's got some problems." And I'm like, "Well, what kind of problems?" "It's got Uncle Bob problems." So he's going to pull that engine out. We're going to bring it up here. I said we can dyno it as is and see where it's at, what it makes, and then we can take it apart, swap the hydraulic roller cam and lifters in it, change the valve springs, maybe push rods if we have to. I'm sure that's probably going to be an issue. And
We'll check the heads, make sure they got hardened seats in them.
yeah, so it's got Edelbrock aluminum heads on it.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it's 502 cubic inches. It's got a stroker crank in it. Just a standard 460 big block Ford base engine. But it's 502 inches. Just needs a little tuning, a little help, maybe a set of hydraulic roller lifters in it. Then we can dyno it and see what it makes after we make the swap on all this stuff.
Right.
And put the new ATM carburetor on it.
Yeah.
Sound like a plan?
Sounds like a plan.
You in?
I'm in.
Oh my gosh, that looks so good. Yuck.